Hey everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner. That's Ian Rivers. Ian, we got one more show. This is the final show of the 2024-2025 athletic season. It's it. We're wrapping some things up. It's crazy to think that we're wrapping up year 3.
Yeah, I can't believe it, man. It feels like just yesterday we had a discussion about starting this podcast, and now here we are, done with year 3. The season 3 finale of the Beaver Banter podcast. It flies, man. It flies. But it's been fun. It's been fun. A lot of good memories over the course of the show and over the course of this season, of course, which we will talk about as we always do on our season finale at the end of this episode with our, not necessarily a draft, but we'll kind of be talking about some of our favorite moments from this past academic and athletic season. So.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty to come in the moments, like you said. And also, we're going to wrap what's left, and we got a little bit of two. So, with that, let's just start by wrapping up what's left for our spring sports at Bemidji State University. Let's start on a positive note. The Beavers baseball team gets some wins to end the season. How about that?
Yeah, they got a couple of wins over the last week since we've spoke. They played a number of games over the weekend. They played against Concordia St. Paul. Or did we talk about that? No, we talked about that. So they played against Minot State and St. Cloud State, and they picked up a win in each of those series. They had 2 games against Minot State. Tuesday, the 29th of April, they had a doubleheader, and they won game 1 5-1. And then they lost 4-8 in game 2. And then they played a number of games against St. Cloud State, 3 of them to close out the season. And all of them were pretty close, CJ. They had a 1-run loss in the first game on Friday, a 7-10 loss in the second game of the doubleheader on Friday. However, it was in 10 innings, so they took it to the wire yet again. And then they did something they haven't done since 2018, which is beat the St. Cloud State Huskies in baseball. They beat them 9-7 in the finale of their season. So that improved their win total to 7 on the season, 7-40, which, we're aware that that's not necessarily a terrific number. But when you compare it to last season's number, which I'll pull it up just to make sure I have it completely right, but I believe it was 3 wins last year. Yeah, 3-47. So you over doubled your win total from last season. And again, this is something we've talked about for a number of programs this year. Going from 3 to 7 wins is not necessarily such a great thing compared to, like, if you did it in football, it would be pretty awesome. But it's still a sign of good things for this program and for a lot of other programs. And honestly, a lot of these wins came in NSIC play this year, CJ. I'm not exactly sure. Now I got to tab back to 2025, but a lot of these wins did not come early in the season. 6-34 in the conference, which is a better mark than they've had in a lot of the past seasons. And it's just something that you got to look out for and say, hey, we don't think that this team is going to be competing for the NSIC next season, but it's definitely a sign that they're stepping, hopefully, into the right direction.
You got to take a lot of steps to get to where you want to be, and unfortunately, the first few feel pretty minor. But you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Unfortunately, did still finish last in the NSIC baseball standings, but it's tough. It's tough out there. Last year only having 2 wins in the conference.
Streak against St. Cloud, so.
Yeah, you got to start the winning streak somewhere.
So, the last 20-game losing streak against St. Cloud State, the last win was on senior day of the 2018 season on April 28th. It was a 7-3 victory for Bemidji State in that one. And how old was that? Well, we talked about that win most likely on R&B Sports Talk. That is how old that win was.
Yeah, that's tough, man. It's been a while.
That's aging.
but Yeah, good for them though. Honestly, like I am so happy that they are able to. And this is, forgive me, I is this the first year with their new head baseball coach,
I
or
believe
had
it's
they
second or third.
year two? Yeah, year two. So hey, year one you're taking over. You took your lumps, and this year's still rough, but I mean, you look up and down
It takes a
this
while to
too, and
build a program.
it's kind of something we said with women's hockey as well, right? Like there's still some ugly scores in here. There's no doubt. But honestly, when you compare it to years past, this might look a little better. I mean, there's a lot more like, 1-3 losses in here, 6-8, 3-5, 4-7. Like these are some closer games than we've seen, at least more closer games than we've seen. And of course, like, again, it's kind of the same thing we talked about with women's hockey. It's not just an improvement in the win category, it's an improvement in the loss category as well. And that's something that I think shouldn't be overstated either. And honestly, it's just good, because even though you're just having fun playing baseball, it's still probably not that fun to go 3-47. So to get a few more of those games and a few more of those days where you get to feel like you had a better day because you got a win, even if it was just a split of a doubleheader. Like that's 4 more days you probably got with a little bit more like pep in your step as you were on the bus ride home or walking around campus the next day or whatever it is. So that's good. That's good for the athletes as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's good for them. So, you know what? Let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other things going on. I think that wraps it up for our men's sports this season. We talked about men's golf last week, so go check that out for some information there a couple weeks ago. So go check out some information there. Last week we did talk about women's golf. And then, of course, we're kind of wrapping things up. We wrapped things up with softball last week as well, wrapped things up with tennis. And all we really have left to talk about is women's track and field. Now, if we recap some of the things that went on since we last spoke, they had the Maverick Open and the Cobber Open. Now, this is the Maverick Open 2. They did go to an Open about a month ago in early April in Mankato. This is their second one. And then they also had the Cobber Open on Saturday. It's their last kind of invitational / regular season meet. And they will have their final meet of the season at the NSIC Championships. Goes from May 8th to May 10th. That is in Duluth. And of course, we won't be able to recap a ton of stuff. If there's some groundbreaking thing, we will do an emergency podcast and talk about it. If somebody is the NSIC champion and qualifies, we will certainly do an emergency podcast and talk about it. But as we're standing right now, wrap up everything for the invitational season. The Beaver throwers, and they had some multi-event athletes compete. Millie Rosage ran the 100-meter hurdle prelims, qualifying for finals in 7th with a 15.33 time. Did not race in the finals. She also competed in the long jump, where she took 12th with a height of 5.14 meters. Javelin throw at 27.05. McKenna Patron and Trista Bilden took 4th and 5th in javelin throw with distances of 36.92 and 35.93 meters, respectively. Zeta Preby competed in the discus with taking 8th with 41.87 meters. That was in Mankato. Then at the Cobber Open on Saturday, McKenna Frazier competed in the 100-meter at 13.16, Jaden Wodars at 13.63, and Haley Selly at 14.22. Gabriel Wilson found a top 5 spot with a 19.64 second finish in 4th during the 100-meter hurdles. I'm not following that sentence there. So, but Millie Rosag took the first 200-meter dash at 26.08 seconds. In the 1,500-meter run, all 3 competing Beavers, Maggie McCarthy, Sophie Rylance, and Sydney Price, set personal bests. And Selly also set her personal best with a 1:14.23 during the 400-meter hurdles. Wrapping up with the field event, Zeta Preby was found the top of the podium with a discus throw with a 44.53 meter throw. So, hey, congratulations there. Ellie Betcher also found her name in the top 5, taking 4th at 36.28. McKenna Patron Patron marked a personal best in the hammer throw with an event win at a distance of 46.88 meters. Zoe Lennon also found her best at 34.18 meters. Rounding out the day, Chloe Nod took second in the pole vault with a personal best of 3.08 meters. Patron found her second event win of the day with a 12.88 meter shot put throw. And then Trista Bilden was behind her with a PR of 12.38 in third place. So, hey, some good things to talk about here as they wrap up their regular season and get ready for the NSICs coming up this weekend.
Yeah, very good stuff. I feel like we always have a pretty decent track team. You know, you hear about all the time personal bests being set by all the athletes and program records being broken, you know, at least a couple times a year. And I guess it doesn't necessarily correlate all the time into team success. But
track and field is such a hard one too to correlate because you're competing against some really good athletes, and it's a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, people who are in track and field will tell you all the time that it's like a personal sport more than it is anything. Like somebody, like when you're at a meet, you're competing for different things. Like a lot of people are going to compete to win, but that's really only like a certain handful of people. Most of the people at the meet are literally just looking to PR, and whatever happens. And so, yeah, it's like, just because there's no like NSIC champions or like NCAA, there's not a billion NCAA qualifiers. That means that it's like a bad team. Yeah, there are a lot of people who go there and PR and kind of get that development, which is a really good sign.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, congrats to all of them. And like CJ said, if there's something groundbreaking that happens over this next couple of weeks as the team is competing, we will bring it to you. Otherwise, be sure to stay tuned to our social media pages. If there's anything of note, I'm sure we'll be reposting it or commenting on that on there as well to wrap up the season. I think that might be it.
It could also be on the Discord.
Stuff. Yeah, and it also could be on the Discord, which you should be joining because now is the most important time over the summer when the news cycle is pretty stale for a Division II university, most sports, I should say, like Bemidji State. There's not too much going around unless you're really, really plugged in on Twitter. And sometimes the Beaver Banter Discord is the best place to be to find all of the news just in one place. Anything important, it always gets posted in there. It's on all of our social media pages. Links are everywhere. Go find them and go join because there's tons of Beaver fans and they want to talk to you about Beaver sports. So get in there.
And you can talk to them.
It's awesome. Yeah, and you can talk. You can talk as well, and it's not just about Beaver sports. There's tons of other stuff that gets chatted about in there. And
you want to complain about the Twins? There's a place.
Timberwolves are going on a playoff run.
You want to talk about an offsides call with the Wild? It's
tonight. There. Yeah, the Wild. You get to live through that every year in there. It's always fun to have a support group right at your fingertips. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or if you just want to be mad with a bunch of people together, it's not even a support group. It's just a place to go vent. That's
yes.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
A great place. There's a lot of good stuff happening. Go check out the Beaver Banter Discord. Go find us on Twitter, Facebook. We have some information there about how to join the Discord there. And I suppose I could probably find a way to get it in the episode notes as well. So you know what? Why don't you look in the episode notes for today? And you can see that wherever you're watching listening to the podcast or watching on YouTube, we'll have some way for you to be able to enjoy that content. So other than that, yeah, like you said, Ian, that kind of wraps up all of the athletics stuff to really talk about. So that means we got to do a couple things before we get out of here. Why don't we go through a couple mailbag questions? So I know we put the mailbag call out on the Discord. We also put the mailbag call out on our social media pages. So we got a couple of these questions coming in on Twitter, on our Twitter DMs, I should say. So this came in here. This question is for both of us, but it's specifically for Ian. And again, I don't want to put any names on here just for whatever, but this question probably better for Ian because it's a soccer related question. I was talking about women's soccer, and it says, what do you consider as the most impressive Bemidji State women's soccer team that you have followed / covered?
Oh, geez. That's tough. I think if you're talking about impressive from a standpoint of what they accomplished, it would probably be, man, what is it? Our first season covering. So the 2022
team.
just because they went to the national quarterfinals and it was so much fun watching that tournament run. They doubled up, or no, they didn't double up that year. They just won the tournament in Mankato over Minot. And then to follow that up with beating Mankato in the national tournament, and then beating, I can't remember who it was in the round of 16. Was it Emporia?
Was it
State?
another conference opponent? Yeah.
No, it was either, no, it wasn't Emporia.
I'll
it might
look
have
it
been, Central Oklahoma. That sounds
that sounds right, because they had to come all the way up to Bemidji.
And it was snowing, and I am mad that I didn't get to watch it, but I was driving up to watch the football game the next day. That was the super weekend at the Chet. And so I was driving up that Friday, and I missed the game. I listened to it on my phone, but winning a penalty kick shootout in the snow, that team was impressive just because they accomplished so much. But the early stages of when this team started to take off, I don't remember the exact season it was, CJ, but we were talking about this team on R&B on the radio, and they would go on these huge win streaks, and they had such great offense. And of course, like most people are biased, like, yeah, there's going to be people that love defense and love the current style of Bemidji State soccer where they grind out a bunch of 1-0 victories or 2-1 victories, and it's all low scoring. But that team used to just pound people like 4-1, 5-1. Like they beat North Dakota in a scrimmage that year or an exhibition game.
It was a 1-0. If we're
season.
talking about the 2018 season, they went 18-1-2 in 2018 with a win over North Dakota, 1-0 in Grand Forks. They had a double overtime tie with Augustana and a shootout loss to UMary in the NSIC tournament. It was the opening round. Now they still got to host in the tournament. They beat Minot 3-1 and then lost to Central Missouri 2-0 for their one loss of the season. But yeah, I mean, they were beating teams 3-0, 3-1, 3-2, 5-1, 4-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-2, 3, like 4. There was multiple 3 or more goal games. I mean, it was over half their schedule. It felt like, that was a team that didn't just play, like they weren't just great defenders and they did enough on offense. It was like a legitimate, I would probably be my answer, and it's a very uninformed opinion, but there's just something about that 2018 team with Rachel Norton and some of those other players that were able to do a lot of really good stuff and be, I mean, they put the program on the, I mean, there were probably other, maybe it's again, recency bias here, but they put the program on the map with that season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they hadn't won a playoff game. Maybe that was the first NCAA tournament game they ever won, because I know that they had made it a couple times before that, but they never won a game. And they had the kind of the label of like playoff chokers at the time. Like they would always get in
especially
as a high seed
tournament.
In the conference tournament, they'd get in as a high seed and they'd lose. And every year it was the same story. And then finally one year, that's why we were so hyped, a couple of years ago when they finally won the elusive NSIC conference tournament title. That team was just incredible. I mean, really laying the groundwork for this last stretch of, 7-8 years that they've had a lot of success. And I think that team was up like in the top 5. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we were talking about like them being like ranked 4th in the country at one point.
They were
like
pretty
on R&B.
high.
Like they were nuts. And of course that's natural. When you don't lose games, you probably are going to be ranked pretty high. But yeah, that team was probably the most impressive just from like a pure like dominance standpoint. They just never lost. And it was always so fun to watch them.
Now, going back to the 2017 season, which we covered a little bit, but not necessarily probably to the level we should have back then. I mean, they were 15-1-4 going into the tournament, to the NSIC tournament. They beat Winona State in the first round, lost to Augustana 1-0 in the semis in the NSIC tournament. And then in the opening round of the NCAA tournament, they had to go to Warrensburg, Missouri, and they played who else but Augustana, and they lost in a 0-0 shootout loss to Augie in the opening round in 2017. So 2018 felt like a boom. This team is back. They are somehow better in the regular season. And it really was, again, recency bias, because 2018 was probably the first year where we were really like, oh my gosh, like the women's soccer program is like super good all the time, like dominatingly good. And so I think overall, I always have the 2018 team in my brain, but it's probably, again, maybe a little bit of recency bias, maybe whatever. But that probably was the team. So, all right, good question there. All right, let's look to the next one. This one goes to will Bemidji State be able to compete again in football with a new starting quarterback? Now, this says here that obviously they were able to go with Sam McGath pretty far, but that still was a lot of the same team that was around Brandon Alt throughout the years past. So basically, can Bemidji, and maybe it's not quarterback related, I guess maybe it could be broadened out, but for this question, it was just more of a, can Bemidji State keep this train rolling with another starting quarterback coming under center next year?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they did it this year with now granted, McGath had experience. He had in-game experience. He's a very experienced guy. And whoever they throw out there, whether it's, Romack or Mechanic or, Makinich, I think is actually how it's pronounced, or Connor Carver, whatever one of those guys they put on the field, they're going to be less experienced just from a, typical, not a fifth-year senior that Sam McGath was, or I don't even know what.
Carver got out on the field a little bit, I guess, but it's in the way, I mean, it's a little bit less than the way McGath was because McGath did it over multiple seasons.
Yeah, and I guess Romack played a few snaps as well, like over the course of the SMSU game and stuff like that. But I think so, and it's difficult too because I have more faith in them just because I watched them do it. Like last year, I really was struggling to answer this question: like, are they going to be able to compete after losing Brandon Alt? I think this year, absolutely. Like, now they lost a lot of trench warfare pieces. Like the defensive line kind of got gutted, but I think that they're kind of like, this is going to sound so ridiculous, but like Bama in a sense where it's just like, oh no, we lost like Amari Cooper, but now we have Jerry Jeudy. And like, it's just like every year, it doesn't matter that they lose so much talent because they're going to replace it and they're going to replenish it. And I think after talking with Jordan Hine a couple of weeks ago that we did, it sounds like they have a very good contingency plan in place to replace all of the defensive pieces that they lost. We saw the secondary step up last year in a way we hadn't seen before. Last year, or a couple of years ago, the defense was really good, but it was more of the front seven and the secondary really struggled. Well, last year we saw the whole thing come together. So maybe this next year you don't see the whole thing and it's a little bit of a weak fronter, weaker defensive line, but the secondary is really elite. I really do think we are going to have a really good secondary next year. In the backfield, the running backs that we've got, like, I do think that this team, it might look a little different, but it will still be a competitive team. I mean, as long as one of the, 4 quarterbacks that they have on the roster that I think could be good are good. And they'll probably figure out which one it is, come the start of the season.
Right, exactly. And, the biggest question necessarily isn't really quarterback. I think the biggest question is going to be defense because they did lose a lot of pieces for graduation. And let's not forget they lost Marcus Hansen. Like that is just such a, I keep forgetting that every once in a while. And then it makes me sad because he's a friend of the podcast. Hope you're doing well, Marcus. But like, we wish you would have played another season in the Gang Green defense because we need you, man. But yeah, like talking with Coach Hine, and obviously he's the offensive coordinator there with the Beavers, but they go against the defense in practice every day. So, they feel like, hey, we're going to find the pieces. We're going to figure things out. And they will. And you have to in college. You have to reinvent yourself every single season. And especially now with the transfer portal and some of that other stuff, you constantly are having to reinvent your team and your roster build up and whatever. So I think if now it's kind of more than ever built to be kind of 1 year to year, everything kind of needs to get reassessed. And so I think the defense would be the bigger question. That doesn't mean that I don't have faith in that they'll do it. It just means that like that I think is the bigger question more than on offense, considering that now we, like you said, we've seen that transfer of power in the huddle go from the best quarterback in program history in Brandon Alt to somebody like McGath, who was able to still be successful and in fact go further in the postseason. So no matter who is under center, I think Bemidji State will be fine at quarterback going into the future. Now, again, could be wrong, but I'm not worried. I think the football program has shown now over a span of multiple seasons that it doesn't really matter how the team is constructed. They do find a way to get enough talent. And when your program has been to the NCAA tournament multiple times and win games when you get there, that does help your program out because you get better recruits because you win. And that certainly would help Bemidji State out as well. So, all right. One more mailbag question, and then we're going to pick out our favorite moments of the 2024-25 season. So flipping things over to men's hockey here. Again, these were submitted on the Beaver Banter Twitter page. Feel free to do this next year, by the way, on the Discord, on the Beaver Banter Twitter page, in the DMs, wherever. Give us your questions. We'll answer them here on the podcast. Last question here as we wrap things up. CJ and Ian, if you guys were running the Beaver hockey program marketing, so not like the on ice ability, but like just in terms of marketing, like what would be your ways to help market the team into the future? And again, the people who do it do a great job, nothing against them, but this is just more like, all right, Ian, you're put in that chair. What would you do as kind of your way to help grow Beaver hockey?
I guess obviously we don't have this person in front of us, so it's hard to clarify, but like, good Lord,
you got like a dog bursting in or what?
Yeah, there's something going on up there. But anyways, I guess it depends. Like from an actual marketing perspective, like how would I, go? Like would I go door to door? Would I come up with different advertisements or something? Like
let's fill it in for this person. Let's say that like let's just transition it to you want to get more butts and seats consistently at the Sanford Center. How would you do that?
I think there needs to be more tradition in terms of like something that is unique to Bemidji State that is going to happen on game days. Like we hate the Olays, right? When we go to Mankato and they play this stupid song after they score goals, but that's something that they do. And that's what their fans get excited about. And that's something very simple. And I don't know how much that one particular
people
thing.
Who have been involved with the program, whether like they were students in the 90s versus students now, like it's something that they all can kind of relate to, right?
Right. And it takes a couple of years to build a tradition. So like, I don't know. I want to get something started. Like I've always, I don't know what it could be. Like, I like the soccer idea where, Minnesota United does this at least, where somebody scores a goal and then the PA announcer will like say the first name and then the entire crowd will yell the last name of the player who scored or something. And it just like, it feels like this big community thing. Like, whether it be, I've always been a fan of the rally towels. Like they brought the rally towels out for the championship game a couple of years ago. I think that we should use that as a university, like every game for every sport, like give these people, like the freshmen that get on campus, give them their rally towel and tell them, like, this is yours, like for free. We can also sell them.
If you show up to a game, you get like this or something. Yeah, like if you show up to a
wave
game,
it around.
Wave
it around. Corner kicks, fourth downs, like anything at the hockey rink during the power play. Like just wave that thing around, make it look intimidating to be at the Sanford Center, at Chet Anderson Stadium. Like, I don't know. I think that would be a kind of cool idea. Just stuff like that makes people like, I don't know, have some sense of like tradition when they go to games. Cause like, maybe I'm forgetting something. But it doesn't feel like there's anything like to me that a college kid would get excited about. Cause that's one thing that's been disappointing too, is the amount of students that go to games. And if they want to get more students involved in games, they got to make some sort of, and it might start with like hoping that some students want to form some sort of something that Michigan Tech has, or something like a really passionate, they got the siren heads that have showed up and showed out at a couple of games. But other than that, just getting the fans involved more, making them want to do something, like give them something to do during the game, and it's like, what, if that's the wave, like screw it, dude. Like if that's just, oh my God, we got to go play Bemidji State and watch them do the wave, like the whole game. Don't stop. The wave doesn't stop going around the Sanford Center the entire game. It's just all game long. We're going to have the biggest arms in the CCHA because everybody's just going to be doing these arm workouts all game. Like, I don't know, anything to make it, get the fans involved, because that's something that I want to see. Whatever it is, that's my idea.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the best idea. That's better than the idea I had. But like, yeah, exactly. Create some tradition, create some moments, create something additional to what's already there, to where people feel like like something that's synonymous with your program. So, and again, like there's the fine line between like what's like organic and what's astroturfed and all that stuff. But also like you do need to try. You do need to try and like get something to go along with the program. Again, it's for a specific rivalry. But when they played UND and they would get the glow sticks out and they would do all like whatever, like I mean that was a fun atmosphere. I was in the stat box, like I was in the media box doing stats, so I wasn't like a part of it, but watching it is super fun. And something like that to build that camaraderie and to build that program and to give it something like when you're making the pocket schedule for the next year, like what pictures of the fans are you putting out there? And you're putting pictures of the fans when they're doing the wave, or they got the rally towels, or they got something to make it look like some kids like, whoa, dad, you got to take me there this weekend. Or some college kids like, yeah, no, when I go to college at Bemidji State, I want to be able to do this and help build it out that way. So what I would probably do is like my first move would probably be, in a way, and it sounds counterintuitive, it would be to find ways to get more people to just watch the games from their home. So what I mean, you got to find ways, whether it's like organizing watch parties throughout Bemidji, like team up with a Fozzie's, team up with a tavern, team up with a wherever across Bemidji and be like, hey, they're in Michigan Tech this weekend, but don't worry, like we're going to be doing a watch party here and we're going to all watch the game together. And you do it. And again, it's not necessarily going to, in the immediate moment, create more people going to the Sanford Center, but what it will create is it will create people who are invested in the team. So at the end of a year, then everybody starts to come in, and not just because they're winning, but because you feel like you're attached to the team, because it feels like you've watched some of these guys. And, in the same way to look at the Minnesota Twins, they're suffering from this issue too, not just because their team flopped in the Minnesota Twins at the end of last season and the ownership issues, but also because a lot of people haven't been able to watch the Twins. I have YouTube TV. I got to pay extra to watch the Twins. It's dumb. I don't like it.
Same.
And a lot of people feel that way about, again, for Bemidji State hockey. And I know there's Midco, and Midco did a great job in their first year. Like, that's not what that's about. But if you're the university, you should be finding a way, again, whether you pay for it out of pocket. I get money. I get that, I get that there's some roadblocks there, but like, or maybe it's team up with Midco or team up with another business in town to where like you guys will foot the bill for a year's subscription to watch Bemidji State hockey on Midco Sports Plus and give it out to people. Do an event and give it out, like do a watch party for the opening weekend and say, hey, if you come, we're going to give out 3 season passes this year to watch Beaver hockey for free. And then people get to watch it all season long and they feel like, hey, I'm a part of the team. I'm watching this. It's just, again, it's the same way that what you're talking about, Ian. I think we're both in the same vein of like, how are there ways to build kind of this things that fans can do, one, together, but two, just to get more invested in the team each season to the point where they're going to want to be a part of it. And I think that's huge. And again, the games used to be on Lakeland. I get it. Streaming, it's just not going to happen anymore. You could do that. And maybe you just do that anyways, plus streaming. I know certain places are able to do that regardless. Maybe that's also the first step. But if you're kicking linear models to the curb and you want to be straight up streaming, you should find a way to get BSU hockey games at the Bemidji B-Dubs. You should be finding a way to get Midco Sports Plus at Fozzie's, at the Tavern, like any bar in the Bemidji area. Go down to Park Rapids, go over to Black Duck, go to Bagley, go to, wherever, go to Grand Rapids even. Like, do some of that to get Bemidji State hockey on people's minds when they're watching stuff. And I feel like that, again, I'm an idiot, so I'm not trying to say that this fixes all the problems, but like, I feel like that would be a good way to try and grow the program in terms of hockey, because you can watch those games every week. You can see the play-by-play. It's a good production, and you get to see that. That would be my long-winded answer of basically just put them on TV more. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's 100%. That's a great idea, because like the biggest thing, the issue is like when they stopped doing the games on Lakeland, and I'm sure there's a bunch of red tape and all that, and that I don't know about behind the scenes, but people now don't have cheap access. Not everybody wants to pay $150 a year or whatever it is now, less than that.
Whatever
now,
bucks a month,
25 or whatever, $25 a month to watch Bemidji State hockey,
or they got to feel like there's a reason to do it. They're not just going to do it because it's Bemidji State hockey. They got to get invested.
And so if you're not watching it every week, you're not investing yourself in this team. Sure, you might read the paper or something, but why would you want to then just say, oh, we're playing Ferris State on February 13th. Let's just go to that game because it's something to do, and they're going to go to one or two games a week or well, that'd be great.
That'd be great.
One or two games a season, and it's like, cool. So if everybody goes to one or two games a season, we look at the attendance that we have now, and it's directly correlated with when they stop, showing the games publicly for free, or not for free, but just for everybody
on linear models, on something they're already paying for. Yeah.
And again, there's probably red tape and stuff that maybe they can't go back to doing that. But then if they can't, like you said, I think that's a great idea. These bars should be teaming up with Bemidji State and let's do a happy hour. We're going to sell cheap beer as from puck drop to final horn.
Every time the Beavers score, it's like $1 off drinks for the next 5 minutes or something like that.
Yep. Come to the bar, you got 5 minutes to get a drink. Like
appetizers are half price every time the Beavers score 2 goals or more in a game.
Like anything, some sort of promotion, like you said, you drive around town and you want to just know that people care about the hockey team and every other sports team for that matter. But if you're specifically talking about trying to get more people invested in the Beavers men's hockey program, because right now the problem is they're relying so heavily on the product on the ice to be good and for people to care because the team is good and not because they just like going to Bemidji State hockey games and they have traditions surrounding it and they know the players on the team because they've been able to watch it all season long. It does, because that's exactly what Minnesota United did. I used to watch every game, and then they went to Apple TV, and I have not watched a game since, other than the one game that I went to. But that was really only because my siblings were like, hey, we haven't been to the new stadium. We really want to go. Can we go? So we went to a game last summer. Other than that, how are they doing this year? I know the season started like 2 months ago, but I haven't even invested myself in it because the games are not watchable for me unless I change my TV provider or pay an extra subscription every month or every year. And that's just not something I want to do. So that is a big problem. And, there's probably a lot of hoops to jump through to fix some of that issue, but there can be steps taken. Because at the end of the day, it's just more fun if more people are at the hockey games and more people care about the hockey program and every sports team at Bemidji State. But
do you think that they could just Bemidji State could just make one account for the bars in town and they all just share the password? You think there's a screen share on the Midco?
I don't know. I doubt that would work. But yeah, I don't know. And that's something too, bars could do that right now. They don't have to partner with, BSU. The problem is
if you're the hockey team would be proactive in doing that. Right. Yeah. Nothing's stopping anybody in town from just doing it.
Does the bar feel like it's profitable to pay $25 a month, which I don't know, that's not that expensive. If you feel like you can get a couple extra butts and seats for a couple nights, come watch the game and we'll do this promotion and we'll sell cheap wings or something. I don't know. Yeah. So that they could do that at this point too. But yeah, it would be, the onus would be on the university in this case to try to start something like that and try to get more people interested in watching.
Yeah. So, all right, there we go. Good mailbag, guys. Let's do it again next year. This is the first ever Beaver Banter mailbag. Of course, we wait till the final episode of the season. So whatever questions you have, keep them ready in September. And we do want to make it a more consistent thing that happens with Bemidji State sports and stuff like that. So, we hope that continues into next year. As we wrap up the final episode of the 2024-25 Beaver Banter season, let's talk about our best moments. So we got our 3 best moments of
Hold on,
this.
CJ. I've got something to throw at us. Before we start, I want to end on the good, and I have some disappointing news. The Beavers unfortunately lost the Beaver battle this year. 4-5.
Darn it!
I tallied it up, and I hate to break it on the podcast here. I think it's the first year we've won the first 2 years of this traditional Beaver battle that we did. But yeah, soccer really was the swaying vote. It was 4-5, and soccer was the one who usually does win against Minot State that unfortunately dropped their game. I believe baseball and softball both split. Volleyball won.
So I guess either one of them
won,
could have. Yeah.
And then I think basketball teams both lost. So that would be, soccer 4-5 is really the tiebreaker there. But yeah, just had to bring that up before we got to the positives so that we didn't end our season on saying that we lost the Beaver Battle for the first time.
We lost
in our
the Beaver Battle.
history.
We lost the
Gives
Beaver
us something
Battle,
to look
but
forward
we
to
didn't
next
lose.
year, man. We're going to go undefeated next year against that.
Undefeated.
school.
We lost the Beaver Battle, but we didn't lose the Beaver War. That's what,
Exactly.
that's what we got. We're up 2-1 in that case. So, all right, guys, you know the game plan for next year. We gotta do that. So please, Bemidji State athletes, if you're listening, please, we need this. We need this badly. All right. Let's wrap things up by talking about our top 3 moments of the 2024-25 Bemidji State Beavers athletic seasons. We'll kind of go back and forth here in particular order, in no particular order. You tell me what was one of your moments.
It's got to be the football team, man. I mean, not just getting the furthest ever in program history in the postseason, but the way that they did it. You know, we were pretty optimistic, I think. Like looking back, like we were like, we're 5-3, but we have 3 games left against really good opponents. And we lost some fluky games. So this team could be better than they look right now. And so we were still kind of like, all right, if they win this week, I don't remember who it was they played first. Moorhead. I think it was Moorhead, Wayne State, and then Augustana that they had to beat at the end of the season.
It was Wayne, MSU, Moorhead, Augie. That was the 3.
Okay, so we're like, if they beat Wayne, we'll keep talking about them as possible postseason, and then they beat Moorhead. And then we're like, all right, well, we know what we got to do. We got to beat Augustana. And then they beat Augustana and they're in. And it's like, all right, cool. Now now what? Like we got to keep winning. And we just kept winning. And
they drew Angelo State going down there into the belly of the beast. That's a good program. Bemidji State went down there 2 years ago and couldn't beat them. And they go down there and handle business 24-14. They go to Western Colorado in a game that, I'll be honest, was one of my moments of the season. To get specific, that scoop and score, man.
I mean, dude,
score.
If you want to pick one specific game, I mean, maybe the Augustana game. I didn't get a great chance to watch it. I just got into Texas, I believe, when that game was happening. And I was coming back actually for the Angelo State game, so I didn't get to see.
I remember listening to it driving back. I think from state. I did a state semifinal football game. Watched Minnesota just completely obliterate Parker's Prairie, like 70-0. I'm not kidding. That was the actual score. And I had to drive home, and I was listening on my way back. So I didn't have the best one of that Augustana game, but I was able to listen to most of the second half, and I was like, we're getting in. We're getting into the NCAA tournament. And then they beat Angelo State. But going to that Western Colorado game, it looked like for most of the game, like we're cooked. There's no way we're coming back. There was the turnover on downs at midfield, and you're like, that's it. Maybe they get one more shot, but like that's it.
Did they get stuffed at the goal line once in this game where they didn't get points?
Yeah, they had some special teams miscues in that game too.
Yeah,
and it wasn't like a punt.
I think like
bad snap for like a safety or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, so there was like so many turns, and they were still in it, but it was like, all right. We're down.
Like if you were watching the game, the vibe check was like they're not doing anything.
Well, okay, and they didn't have, unless you were listening to the Beaver Radio Network, which I believe was calling it.
Yes,
there's no on the video stream. There's no color commentary or anything, which is crazy for the second round of the NCAA tournament. By the way,
on ESPN
Plus, right? Like crazy to not have that, but like. There was a touchdown score that made it like a 2-possession game late in the game for Western Colorado. And I'm like, all right, I'm lucky that I didn't shut my laptop because I was like, all right, it's over. Like there's no way. We only have like 4 minutes left. The offense has 7 points on the board or whatever it was.
The Discord chat was not in a good mood.
Yeah. And so it's like, dang, like this stinks. We really could have beaten this team. We felt like we were better than them going into the game. And our defense was kicking them down. And then there was a holding call that we didn't even know about because of the fact that like we couldn't hear anything.
Right.
And so it took their touchdown off the board. And then like I don't know if it was the ensuing play or not. I can't remember. But like to go from being down 12 points to now being up because you scoop and score. And it's like the drastic swing of emotions. That one moment right there is probably like, yeah, better than the whole run itself. But yeah, that game down in Mankato, I mean, that was still fun as much as it sucked that we were 4 yards short from going to the national semifinal. It was still cool to,
by the way,
go down there.
I think we need to talk about it. And I think we do need to give respect to the play, a forced fumble by Stephen Hoffman and a scoop and score by Gabe Ward. Like
Gabe Ward,
those guys, man, Gabe Ward, like, and somebody did find, the call on the Beaver Radio Network and layered it over top of the video. And I can't remember who did that. The props to whoever did that, because Kevin did have a great call of that game, of that play. And it was really fun to get to see that kind of overlap, because let me tell you, this is why you should join the Discord, because that place was popping after that.
Yeah. I think I remember texting my college roommates, and one of them had actually turned the game off after the touchdown for Western Colorado, and they assumed that it was over. And then our little buddy group chat that we have blows up, and he's like, "What? You're kidding?" Yeah, that was awesome. I mean, that's just stuff you don't experience every year, or even every decade. It's like a once in a decade or more moment for a school or a program, especially to be in that. That's something cool that could happen to win you a game, and like to have it happen in the round of 16, in the NCAA tournament, like, is just even better. Like, yeah, I just think that that was so cool. So yeah, I mean, cool. Football, very, very clearly, probably the best moments of the season, just because of the team success that they had was probably the best this year. So it makes sense that they're kind of first off the board.
And they went down to Mankato, and they were one like goal line conversion away. Like,
they're like, I mean,
the
3 or 4 yards away.
The Mankato game might be moment number 2 for me. And I mean, it is moment number 2 for me. And I know they lost the game, but that environment, we were there. Bemidji State fans traveled to go to that one. There was a good contingent of BSU fans. We sat behind the sideline. We saw everything going on. Like, we saw Connor Carver like carving up like on his runs through the Mankato defense. Like, it was, again, Bemidji State didn't get a turn. They had a turnover on downs, and it felt like the game was over. They got the ball back with like under a minute left and like one timeout or something like that. And they march all the way down the field, and they just couldn't convert at the edge of the goal line a few different times. And that was the game. And I believe it was a turnover on downs, or maybe there was an interception. There was a turnover on the goal line, and that's what cemented it. But like, Bemidji State was this close to going to a national semifinal game, this close, and doing it in Mankato and whatever. It didn't happen, but I'll be lying to you if I say that I still don't think very highly of that game and that moment and that atmosphere. Like, that was fun seeing Beaver fans kind of come together for that one and support and almost get there. And again, Mankato fans will probably laugh at me for putting this on there, but that was still a cool moment. That's one of mine on this list.
Yeah, I would say probably my next one, and I do agree with that Mankato game. It was awesome seeing I was surprised at how many people were there wearing green for that game, even though it was in Mankato and it was such a big game. I didn't expect it to be, 40% of the stadium. So that was really cool to see. My next one was probably men's hockey related, just the month of like November that they had, where they beat the Gophers. They won the series again for the second time ever against North Dakota. They beat Mankato in one of those games. They beat Augustana in overtime. They, won a series against St. Thomas in that stretch. And that's really, before the dark times came. And it was still kind of when you were really optimistic, because that's, again, the same time, like, we beat was it Minnesota? And then like we went to the NCAA tournament and then beat Minnesota the same like day, wasn't it? Like that Saturday.
Yeah. It was, wait, for which one?
So we went to the football team beat Augustana, and then was that the weekend? I think that was the same weekend we beat Minnesota, like the same Saturday. I'm pretty sure we had like this terrific Saturday.
Yeah, because I was down in the cities and I was like, oh, sweet, I can go to a game. And then like the Friday, they went back to Bemidji and I was out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yep, that was right. I believe so.
And so I guess I would have to pinpoint that specific Saturday, which kind of doubles up with like, men's football or football again, like with men's hockey. And I think even women's hockey, they might have been playing that same time. And I think they had a big win against St. Thomas or something. Like they won the series. I could be wrong about that too. I'll fact check that right now while I'm kind of talking. But yeah, that just was a crazy like weekend. And I like got to Texas and everybody's telling me to stay in Texas because Bemidji's been doing so well ever since I was there. They're winning playoff games. They're beating the Gophers and they beat St. Thomas the next weekend when I was still there. Like, yeah, it was fun. That's probably my number 2, even above some of the other hockey stuff that happened this year. That's probably on my list as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was a sweep of St. Thomas was that weekend for women's hockey as well. So yeah, just an overall like a terrific Saturday for Bemidji State.
It was one of those where you end and you're like, who's got it better than us? And then, then January proceeds to happen. But besides that fact, I got it before I list off my favorite moment. I just got to get a couple honorable mentions off the old chest here. And one of them, I think, has got to be the Hockey Day Minnesota for the women's. I know they didn't win those games, but they got to play in Hockey Day Minnesota. They got to put out those new uniforms, the alternates, which were awesome. They were super good. They were great. And then the men's hockey, too, getting to release their alternate uniforms. And then I think this also should be as top moments, Sarah Torrey getting win number 400 also
number 400, right?
That's an honor. It's an honorable mention, and maybe it should be on the list. So I'm sorry, Tom, if you're listening. I apologize, but like those are some honorable mentions on the list from things that have happened this year. It's been a crazy year. It kind of got Sarah Torrey's win got buried because we expected it to happen a lot sooner than what it did. I know Lucas of Beaver Territory every single time is like, guys, is Sarah Torrey going to get it this year? Like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? So yeah, like that finally happening was good. But my final moment, and I think it's pretty easy based that I've eliminated a lot of other things, has to be the fact, and by the way, I think this should be, I can't remember which team it was. Sorry, before I get to my last moment, I got to pick off another to give the volleyball team a little bit of love, because obviously their season was not good and it was none of their fault. And they obviously had the passing of their head coach right away at the beginning of the season, and they got delayed and they didn't get to start right away. And all of that happened. And again, like thoughts and prayers with that program, all of that stuff. But I think we do need to give credit to the team for playing through that season and doing what they needed to do. And I'm trying to find I want to make sure I get this right, because they had an upset win at some point in the season. I'm trying to figure out where it was at, or they had like
it was a crazy game. That's right.
Where am I looking? I'm looking on the schedule here and I'm not seeing what I'm looking for. There were wins over was it maybe the win over MSU Moorhead? Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yes, that was it. That was the one.
There was wins over Minot State. Like that was trying to think, because they were ranked it doesn't show the ranking here. So maybe I'll go back to the recap to see who was ranked at the time. Yeah, was that first one that I mentioned. Maybe it was the MSU Moorhead one. So basically it was like for the season that they had to kind of go through everything that was going on. They got a win, and with everything going on, and to beat Moorhead and everything that went into that game, just basically for the season they had and for everything going on. And I hope I'm getting the date right, because I'm trying to remember this on the fly. I should have wrote it down. But they do get props for their season they had, and for at least sticking that out. All things considered, if they just would have canceled the season, I don't think anybody would have blamed them. So the BSU volleyball team does get praise for that. So I do want to mention that. But I want to give you time to talk about your final one. But I'm just going to say for my final one, Bemidji State, Augustana, playoffs, opening round of the CCHA. The first ever playoff series for Augustana. They get the win in game 1, and you think it's over. It's cooked. Bemidji State gets a win in game 2. I predicted that Bemidji State was going to lose game 1, win game 2, and lose game 3. And then they proved me wrong. And not only that, they get an overtime victory. And that was just amazing. And to put Augustana in their place like he did in football is always fun. The fact that is going to, like, if you want to create a rivalry with Augustana in hockey, that's the perfect way to do it, by getting an upset win in the playoff series when you were the lower seed. Everything that went wrong for the Beavers, they were able to get that win and weirdly be a win away from me making the NCAA tournament like they were a season ago. So overall, that was my final moment. So sorry for talking a lot, Ian. I know we got 5 minutes before we're out of here. You get the floor. What's your third one?
No, yeah. I mean, that would have been probably up there for me too. But iCard have already took a hockey one. So yeah, that's definitely in there. I think Logan Schupp winning another NSIC title for the Beavers men's golf program. I know it was just an individual one this year and not a team accomplishment, but it's still good to see NSIC champions no matter what sport they're playing in. So that's probably my third one. Honorable mention to the softball team and just the way that they were able to perform in the non-conference this year and getting their first ranked win since 2021, or I think that was the year that it was.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, they just missed the cut because of the fact that it took a little bit of a nosedive once we hit conference play. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, still a fun season for them. And I think another honorable mention is just the fact that we've talked about it. I've talked about it, I should say, ad nauseum. All these programs that upped their win total from last season. I don't remember if women's basketball matched or improved on their win total from last year, so I apologize.
I believe they did. I believe they did. Yeah, it was.
I think they did too. So women's basketball, women's women's basketball, women's hockey, softball, baseball, doubling their win total. I mean, football competing when we thought they might have a step back, they actually took a step forward.
It was the same win total from the year before for women's basketball.
Same win total. Okay. So, yeah, but still, you saw all these programs that have been struggling for a couple of years now take steps forward. And hopefully women's basketball, it's their turn next year. And at the very least, they didn't go backwards. So that's a good thing. And, we talk about it a lot. Yes, it's minimalistic wins and it's minimalistic improvement, but that's better than going backwards. And it was cool to see all these teams improve on seasons that they had the year before. And I'm hoping that we can go into the future and have some more success even next year, because that would just make it more fun. It's more fun to come on here and talk about baseball when they actually have good performances. They have NSIC pitchers of the week to talk about. Every other sport, it goes the same way. Women's hockey is more fun to talk about. So hopefully next year we have a lot more memories to talk about. We've been blessed, honestly, for the 3 years we've had to have the sporting events and all this stuff happen, that it has happened, because it would be a much different scenario if these programs weren't giving us the success to talk about. We have nothing to do with it. So they claim. It's just we get to talk about it on here. And so we're fortunate that they've given us good things to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this has been another great season. And there's the people we've been able to have come on the program throughout the year. Lucas of Beaver Territory, Jared Beto of the Bemidji Pioneer, Alex Faber making his of the Bemidji Pioneer as well, making his debut onto the podcast. I know there's other guests I'm missing. We had Jordan Hine come back on the show as Bemidji State's offensive coordinator. I'm sure there's other people I'm missing throughout the season. But thank you guys. Thank you to the people who joined the Discord. Thank you to everybody. We're going to take a break for a little bit. We'll be back at the very worst in mid-August, getting ready to preview football and women's soccer and volleyball and cross country and all of that stuff. We're going to miss you guys over the summer, but we don't have anything else to talk about. So we'll pretty much ran our course.
We'll still be there.
We will still be in the Discord. So if you want to, if a Chargers player suffers a debilitating injury at the first week of training camp, you know exactly where to find Ian Rivers.
Not Hampton, please, God.
I didn't say a name of a player for your sake. So when JJ McCarthy rips his knee up again and the Vikings sign Aaron Rodgers, then you know where to go. No. We're not speaking that into existence. But all right, Ian, anything else? Otherwise, take us home.
Yeah, again, a big thank you to all of our supporters for the first 3 years of this podcast. Things happen over the summer, so keep your eyes peeled. We might be back. We were back last summer, not too long from now, last year. So there might be things coming out in the summer. We're going to try to get some cool stuff out. But if we can't, like CJ said, we'll see you next August. It's always a good day to be a Beaver. Let's go green.